This is the free audiobook of Elemental Power. If you haven't heard the previous chapters, you'll find the link to the playlist in the description below. You can start at chapter 1 or just pick up where you left off. Book 1, Shattered. Chapter 20, Intruder. A wave of sulfured air poured out from the bathroom. Glenn let me drop to the floor and reached up to where an ancient axe hung on display over the fireplace. He pulled it from its mount with effort and held a finger to his lips to silence me. I hadn't intended to speak. He crept on tiptoe over to the open archway. A low, menacing laugh crawled out of the darkness like rolling fog. I'd heard that laugh before. I froze, nearly pissing myself. I motioned Glenn frantically away. He shook his head, unwilling to abandon his post. "What's in there can't be killed with that axe," I said, and forcefully motioned him away from the door. He came back to me quickly, standing just in front of me, ever my protector. "You are wise, granddaughter." The voice, like grinding boulders, spoke from the darkness. I didn't like the idea of him hiding in the dark. I swirled my hand and flung it at the bathroom, which lit all the torches and forced him to become visible. I could see the shadows of his movement as he approached us. "And powerful," he said, stepping through the archway. Stepping maybe wasn't the right word. He sort of floated, hovering above the floor, but he had what appeared to be vestigial legs. I recognized the voice and the large red eyes that wanted to slice me into 1,000 pieces. He had the basic form of a man, but the edges were all fuzzy and wrong, like an old photo negative. He was dressed in black, and his skin was grayish and lifeless. His long black hair drifted behind him on a breeze that wasn't present in this world. "What do you want?" I asked. "I came to see my enemy," he said. "When the fairies reported their failure to me, I decided it was time to pay you a visit myself." "Oh, we've met before. Get out." He laughed, and I felt my vertebrae scrape together. That laugh was pure malice, unadulterated evil. Glenn stepped forward just a pace, but couldn't go any farther. I pulled him back, not wanting him to be hurt. "You won't win, Alana. I will destroy you. You will never pay the price required to defeat me. You may as well give up now." "Nope, you're wrong there," I said, stepping forward to stand in front of Glenn. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep you from destroying this world. Now, in the name of the Creator, I command you, go, never return." I pointed out the window into the snow-covered night. The moons were minuscule slivers. The first cycle had nearly passed. The shadow body of Cudgel roared, seemingly pulled by his hair out the window and away from us. He left an oily film over everything in the room. It couldn't be seen or touched, but it was there, all the same. I found it hard to breathe. Glenn pulled me to himself and held me tightly. He was shaking as much as I was. "How did you do that?" "I just knew there was one name he had to obey. I'm glad it worked. I wasn't entirely sure that it would." "Well, yes, that. But also, how did you turn on the torches in there?" I relayed to him in detail all of the remembrances endured while he was in captivity. I hadn't told him yet, not wanting to mar the brilliance of our reunion with the horrors of what I'd endured. But now was as good a time as any. His face went through a dozen changes, his expressions ranging from interest to curiosity to bewilderment when I had to explain what electricity and television were, to abject terror and empathy. Finally, his countenance read nothing so much as amazement when I described how I had discovered my powers over the elements and become the one his world was looking for. "That is amazing." "Yeah, it's pretty cool," I agreed, smiling. "Don't you remember me coming to you in the dungeon? I turned the torches on in there, too." His smile turned downward, thinking. "Yes, but the warlord was constantly taunting me, torturing me with images of you. I didn't know if it was actually you or the evil shadows until you kissed my head. He was there, you know, in person, trying to destroy me and get me to reveal your secrets." "I didn't know that. I'm sorry." So that's how you knew what Worm meant about the shadows creeping into hearts? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. I pulled his head down, kissing his hair like I had that night in the dungeon. He was now clean, and his hair was soft, scented with the woods. Gaia burst through the bedroom door, with Peta and the others in tow. Worm said there was a breach, that the warlord was here in your room. Are you all right? Peta and the others fanned out, searching every corner of our chambers to make sure the intruder was truly gone. I knew he was. We're fine, I said. He left. Peta rounded on Gaia and demanded, how could this happen? How could he break into a northern stronghold like this? The old woman shrank before the fiery beauty. I don't know, Gaia said, turning to me with panic in her eyes, then back to Peta. Worm told me he was here, and to get you, and to come help Alana. That's all I know. Peta backed up a few paces, realizing how intimidating she was to the poor old gnome. It's all right, she said in a more soothing tone. No harm done. Thanks for coming to my rescue, guys. At ease. Peta smiled at me, then at Glenn, handed him the weapons she'd been keeping for him, and led everyone out of our room. I had stopped shaking when they'd burst in. I love our friends, I said. Yes, me too. He took my hand, and we walked the chambers ourselves, looking in every corner and under the giant bed, just to reassure ourselves that he was truly gone. We prayed over every entrance and the room itself as a bar against evil to keep us safe. When Glenn prayed, it felt like the air around us quivered. A heaviness, like an invisible blanket, spread over me, and I began to gently vibrate from the pit of my stomach outward. A sense of overwhelming peace and safety filled the room like fragrant smoke. We finished our prayers, feeling energized despite the massive amount of focus it took to pray protection over the room. I led Glenn back over to our bed, feeling intensely secure. I knew he wouldn't be back. We were safe. In the morning, we woke to Gaia's voice. She was hastening us to wake up and get dressed. Worm wanted us again. We dressed and followed and stepped into the little cave, waiting for the Watcher to show himself. Glenn and I sat on the ground close together, our fingers interlaced. We waited. Worm popped up from the mound and greeted us. Good morning, children. Good morning, Worm. You want to know how the warlord got into your room last night, do you not? That'd be at the top of my list of questions, yep. The giant earthworm laughed. It was a surprisingly comforting noise, like soft puppy's feet. The cave shook with it. I like you, Alana. You have spirit, which, I imagine, is why you are still alive and not an avatar slave for the warlord. Thanks, I said, smiling. I like you too. The warlord came through the wind sprite that defected to the dark side. The sprite lent him some of his substance to increase the solidity of his body. He did look like a man of mist or smoke. Blurred, did he not? He did, I assured him. Can he come back, do you think? I don't know. You made him leave. How? I commanded him in the name of the Creator. It's the only thing I could think to do. Smart thinking. Yes. That command holds power in every creation. I know of no other way to cast out such an evil thing as the warlord, but by that means. Well done, he said. Thank you. Something else I'd forgotten about. When I was in the castle of Rune, looking for Glenn, I started glowing. Why was that? That was the angelic power in you awakening. What you do with the elements is intuitive, not requiring thought, correct? That's true. It is a part of you, the part of you that is angelic. That part of you operates on a higher plane than the rest. You're both carnal and spiritual like us all, but your spiritual side is much stronger than most. It exists within your carnal flesh. and that is highly unusual for humans. Rest assured, when you need the help of the magic, you will have it. Worm, how long do we have to stay here, do you think? I had absolutely no idea what he had just said, but contented myself for the moment with ignorance. Until the first thaw, about 3 moons cycles. Then, is there any way that we could explore your kingdom? Gaia wouldn't let us out of the courtyard because of territorial gnomes. Is there any way you could prepare a way for us? I asked, hoping he would say yes. I couldn't imagine 3 elemental moon cycles, more than twice as long as 3 earth months, locked up in a castle. I will let every creature know to leave you alone. Listen to your instincts, though. If you sense danger, flee. Yes, sir, I agreed and stood. Thank you so much. Farewell. Happy exploring. Wait until tomorrow. I will send word. He disappeared into the earth with a soft rumble. We walked back up the swirling staircase, but this time I was in the lead. I felt a poke in my backside and turned to find that Glenn was grinning, trying to puka me. I ran up the stairs, unable to avoid him since he was much faster and longer-legged than me. We fell into the kitchen, laughing, and tumbled to a halt in front of a fat gnome chef with a scowl on his face. Can I help you? He said disapprovingly. No, sorry, Glenn said and helped me to my feet. Just lost our balance there. Stay out of my kitchen, the chef snapped. He waddled away, his underlings scurrying before him like rats. We found our way back to our room and were startled to find Peta there, sitting at the table by the fire. She smiled at us and stood, a roll of canvas held out like a gift. Candlewick, I shouted, running over and hugging the bundle affectionately. She missed you, I think, Peta said. She kept getting things wrong, giving me tea instead of strength, and sometimes ignoring me altogether. I glanced around, looking for a spot where I could set her up. The empty space just to the left of the large window was perfect. I moved to it and set Candlewick on the floor. You're not going to set her up inside, are you? Glenn asked, one eyebrow lifted. Yep, I addressed Candlewick. Arise, friend, we have need of you. She unfurled herself with precise and coordinated movements within seconds. I ran inside and danced around, clapping and rubbing my hands along her walls. I've missed you, I said, kissing a random spot. Glenn followed me in, grinning. He came alongside and lifted my hands as he danced with me, twirling me around the room. I felt Candlewick sigh and settle. Peta came in after us, arms crossed and a look of good-humored disdain on her face. Glad to have your real friends back again, eh, Tent? Now will you give me a cup of strength? A cup appeared on the ground by her boots, blue flames licking up the sides. I laughed and picked it up for her. Thank you, Candlewick, I said, returning to dance with Glenn. He set me off in a spin and caught me low on my back, leaning me over. It scared me, and I pulled back up, nearly losing his balance for him. Sorry, I'm not used to that. He kissed my forehead and pulled me in close. I breathed in his scent deeply, like a pine forest, and always the smell of petrichor, fresh and invigorating. Peta sipped her strength, watching us. Glenn, you haven't tried strength, have you? I asked. No. What is it? He asked, peering into Peta's nearly empty cup. Strength all around, Candlewick, please. 3 fresh cups appeared on the ground before us. Peta swilled the rest of her first cup and then served Glenn and me. To friendship and the destruction of the warlord, Peta said, raising her mug high. Cheers, Glenn and I both said, and drank. Glenn's eyes went round as saucers when he tasted it. I drank mine down in a few gulps, watching him with fond possessiveness. He took the cup from his lips and stared into it. What's wrong? I asked, wondering if it hurt him. It truly is strength, he said, turning his face to Peta. This is remarkable. I've never felt so strong and alive and powerful. He gulped down the rest. Now you are a fire creature, elf, she said, clapping him hard on the back and smiling at me. I'll leave you now. I have an engagement. Oh? A winter picnic with a water sprite, perhaps? I asked teasingly. No, she blushed. The color that bloomed on her bronzed cheeks was beautifully delicate, but somehow still fierce. "I'll walk in the forest with him," she said and darted out of the tent. I ran after her, grabbing her arm and pulling her to a stop. "If he turns to ice, I'm sure you'll think of a way to thaw him," I joked, prodding her in the ribs with a fingertip. She blushed deeper, covered her face with her hands to hide her ridiculous grin, and scurried out the door. I giggled and went back into the tent. Glenn was sitting on a luxurious couch, one I'd never seen before, waiting for me. "Sit with me, wife." He patted the cushion beside him. "Okay." I plopped next to him, nuzzling into his chest. "I've never thought to let you try a cup of storm," he said. "Storm? It's energy for wind sprites, like strength is for fire sprites. I've had it once before, and it was exhilarating." "Let's try it then. Candlewick, would you mind?" 2 wooden mugs materialized on the ground at our feet. Glenn bent over to pick them up and handed one to me. Inside the mug, there was indeed a tiny storm. It was a tempest of swirling cloud and wind, but somehow liquefied. "To us," Glenn said. "To us," I repeated, and drank. It tasted like bitter hot chocolate, but with an airy feel and no marshmallow sweetness. I wouldn't call it delicious, but it certainly filled me with energy. The storm, on top of the strength, made my head buzz. It was an intensely enjoyable sensation. "Yee-haw," I said, feeling the tingles crackle like Tesla coils through me. Glenn laughed. "What?" "Yee-haw. It's Texan for huzzah," I explained, and moved to sit on his lap sideways, taking in every angle and curve of his gorgeous face. The scars were faint, likely now as they would always be. He looked like a warrior, my warrior, and the storm and strength were causing a hurricane in my blood. I felt lightning flash in my belly, and I couldn't hold back. I wondered if Candlewick watched our trysts, or if she shut her eyes and went to her happy place. Now wasn't the time to ask. If you enjoyed this chapter, please give it a like and/or a comment. And if you think someone else might enjoy the story, please share with them the first chapter. If you subscribe and turn the notification bell on, you'll be the first to know when the new chapter is released.